If you've seen Mouse PI for Hire and thought, wow, that looks like one of the coolest, most stylish shooters in years, I don't blame you. On the surface, this thing has everything going for it. Classic noir vibes, 1930s cartoon visuals, and fast-paced boomer shooter gameplay. It looks like a must-buy. But here's the problem. The more time you spend with it, the more its charm starts to wear off. Not in a completely broken way, not even in a this is bad kind of way, but in a this should have been so much better than it is kind of way. This is one of those games where if you're hyped for it, trust me, its charm will have you won over. But to us, we're gonna have to say, wait before you buy. So, Mouse PI for Hire comes from Fumi Games, and it's part of that growing wave of modern boomer shooters. Games inspired by classics like Doom and Quake, where movement is fast, combat is punchy, and everything is built around momentum. But what makes this one stand out is the presentation. You play as Jack Pepper, a private investigator in a fully anthropomorphic world of mice, Mouseburg, and right from the jump, it leans hard into that 1930s cartoon aesthetic. Black and white visuals, rubber hose animation, exaggerated expressions. The whole thing looks like a playable Fleischer cartoon mixed with a noir detective film. The story kicks off with a missing magician case, brought to you by a reporter named Wanda Fuller. And like any good detective story, that spirals into something much bigger. Politics, corruption, assassination attempts, and even social tensions between different types of mice. On paper, this sounds incredible. And honestly, most of it is. Let's start with the obvious. This game looks fantastic. The black and white art style is genuinely one of the best I've ever seen in a modern game. The way it blends 2D sprite work with 3D environments is incredibly smooth. And everything from the animations to the reload sequences just oozes personality. It's one of those games where you can stop and just admire how much effort went into the visual design. And it's not just the look, it's the commitment to the bit. From the moment you step into Mouseburg, it's fully realized as this cartoon noir hybrid world. The lighting, the character designs, the environments, it's all cohesive on a surface level. Then there's the gameplay. This is a boomer shooter through and through. You start with a pistol and your fists, but pretty quickly you build out a full arsenal. Shotguns, dynamite, a Tommy gun. Sorry, I meant the James gun. And even weirder stuff like the Devarnisher, which basically melts enemies down to their skeletons. Movement is also a highlight. You've got a double jump, dash, slide, and even a spinning tail mechanic that lets you hover a bit. It gives combat a nice sense of flow, and when everything clicks, you can chain movement and shooting in a way that feels really satisfying. It's not on the level of the genre's best, but it is solid. You can absolutely have a good time just running through levels, blasting enemies, and enjoying the chaos. There's also a decent amount of content. The campaign runs around 12 hours, and like any good boomer shooter, there are secrets everywhere. Hidden walls, collectibles, upgrades, safes to crack. Some of those safes even turn into little puzzle moments, which is a nice touch. And I've got to give a shout out to the hub area. Between missions, you return to this central space with Jack's office, shops, and a bar. And weirdly enough, one of my favorite parts of the game is the baseball card minigame. It's simple, but it's actually fun, and it breaks up the pacing in a nice way. Even the voice acting deserves some credit. The performances are strong across the board, and Jack himself is brought to life really well. So yeah, presentation, very strong. Gameplay, solid. Content, decent. Which makes what I'm about to say even more frustrating. Because this is where Mouse PI for Hire really starts to lose me. Let's start with the writing. I love noir. The tone, the dialogue, the characters. It's one of my favorite genres. And this game clearly knows noir. It understands the tropes, the style, and the structure, but it doesn't understand why those things work. Instead of using noir as a foundation to tell a compelling story, it just constantly references it. Every little thing is a mouse pun or a cheese joke. And look, at first, it's obviously charming. You hear a line and go, okay, that's kind of clever. But then it never stops. Every character, every interaction, every bit of dialogue, it all loops back to haha, mice love cheese. Or some kind of reference to old cartoons, or even the fact that this is a video game. And at some point, it gets very exhausting. Nothing in this world is allowed to just exist. Every moment has to remind you of something else. A pun, a reference, a joke. It's constant. And after a while, it makes it really hard to take anything seriously, which is quite a problem because the game wants you to take it seriously. It's trying to tell a story about corruption, violence, social inequality, and it even touches on themes like oppression between different groups of mice. But how am I supposed to care about any of that when every other line is a cheese pun? It completely undercuts itself. And that leads into the biggest issue here, what people love to call ludonarrative dissonance. Because you're playing as Jack Pepper, a private investigator, a noir detective, a guy who in theory should be solving cases, following leads, piecing together clues. Instead, you're basically a one-mouse army. You are mowing down hundreds of enemies across the game. Cops, criminals, whoever's in your way, it doesn't matter. You break into places, you wipe out entire groups of people, and then the game turns around and treats Jack like he's just some down-on-his-luck everyman trying to make ends meet. I'm not saying he needed to be Doom Guy, but his role doesn't exactly fit the gameplay. There's even a moment where you burn down an opera house, completely unintentionally, and end up fighting an opera singer. You shoot her and she takes this really long nap. Then the game just forgets that happened and moves on. Like, I was just asking myself, is she dead? Did I just kill a random performer? Did I leave her unconscious in a burning building? The game doesn't care. It doesn't expand on it. And that's the problem. In good noir, violence has weight. It has consequences. It changes characters. It means something. Here, it's just gameplay. And normally, that wouldn't be an issue. But again, this game wants to be taken seriously. It spends time building up its characters, its mystery, its themes. But the second you step into gameplay, you immediately notice that they don't exactly combine well. And it's not just the story, even the gameplay has some issues. Enemy design is also a bit repetitive. A lot of encounters boil down to enemies spawning from doors marked with skulls. Doors you can't even enter, which makes the world feel artificial. And then there's the level design. The game leans really heavily on locking you in rooms and throwing waves of enemies at you, over and over again. It's not bad, but it does get old. Difficulty is another weird one. On normal, it's pretty easy. Health items are everywhere, so there's not much tension. And then you've got the detective side of things, which honestly barely exists. You collect clues, sure, they go onto a case board, but instead of you actually solving anything, Jack just figures it out automatically. No input from you. So what's the point? You're supposed to be a detective, but you never actually do detective work. And when you combine that with everything else, the tone issues, the gameplay contradictions, it all starts to feel disjointed, like two completely different games stitched together. So, who is this actually for? If you're someone who just wants a stylish, old-school shooter with a unique art style and you don't really care about story or tone, you are going to have a good time here. If you like boomer shooters and you're just looking for something new to run through, this is a solid addition to the lineup. But if you're coming in because of the noir angle, if you're expecting a strong detective story, meaningful choices, or even just a consistent tone, this might not hit for you. And if you're someone who gets tired of constant jokes and references, listen man, I'm gonna tell you now, you should just stay away from this game. So, should you buy Mouse PI for hire right now? The answer is yes, but don't go in expecting the over-the-top perfect game. This is a game with a lot of potential. The foundation is there, the visuals, the gameplay, the concept, but the execution doesn't fully come together. It's a good shooter wrapped in a messy, overly self-referential story that never quite knows what it wants to be. If you pick it up on sale or after some updates, I'd recommend it even more. But at full price right now, sure, you can go ahead and buy it, but please limit your expectations. Mouse PI for hire is one of those games that you want to love. I mean, it looks incredible, it plays well enough, and it has a concept that feels like it should be a home run. But the more you think about it, the more the cracks start to show. I mean, trust me when I say this, it's not bad, not even close. It's just not as good as it could have been. But, you know, that's just my take. If you've played Mouse PI for hire, let me know what you think down in the comments. Did the style carry it for you? Or did the issues start to pile up? And if you enjoy this kind of review, where we focus on whether a game is actually worth your money, make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to Controller Culture. And as always, I'll catch you all in the next one.